Welcome. Serendia is full of fine horses.
Yeah. Let's put this BDO on the market. I don't care. Don't want them.
Since it's an official trade zone approved by the head of the Merchant Guild.
Now we have a bunch of light stones, but I don't know if I feel like setting it up. I'm not really sure what to use. Like, we have extra AP against monsters, and we have monster damage reduction. What's that? It's like an artifact menu. Not this one. Maybe they got rid of it. It was, there was like a full screen thing for artifacts, but I guess there's some thinking that we could do here. Do they have to be in the right order? BDO light stone combos order. Does the order matter? Yeah, this was the screen I was looking for. But I guess you... Yeah. Oh, there. The interface is awful. I don't know why people keep saying that. It's just a fucking UI. It's not any worse than any other MMO I've played. It's not even like top 10 bad UIs. Like World of Warcraft is top 1. Extra AP or monster damage reduction. I don't know what I want. I think I just want more damage, but not dying is nice. Predation. Rage. All AP. There's not a single other MMO that I want to play. That's like the only reason I'm playing this game. World of Warcraft does not have better UI. Unless you meant Warcraft specifically. All AP, max accuracy. Rage marked. What should we make? All AP plus 7. All accuracy. That's rage and marked. I already have rage here in a monster damage reduction one. Terra was good, Terra was okay. Order doesn't matter, okay. I don't think Terra was particularly good, but... it had a nice feeling world, like... it was pretty well developed in that sense. But gameplay-wise, I think it's highly overrated. I think World of Warcraft has better gameplay. Or had. World of Warcraft is honestly not bad gameplay-wise. It's like one of the best MMOs gameplay-wise still. Or was. I want to emphasize was, because I think that they completely ruined the game after Mists of Pandaria. But... because they took like all the classes, and all the classes were like relatively complex. And then they took them and they were like, you know what, let's make everything like it was in like vanilla almost. Just have one button. It was insane. But the issue is, while I like more high-paced action games like this, or like Terra, it's not as simple as that. Because both this game and Terra, while it had more movement and action gameplay, it had less deep builds and characters and actual gameplay mechanics outside of that. Because here, when I'm playing Ninja, I literally just have a string of skills. And I just go through that string of skills forever. Like, literally the same rotation, always, forever, under all circumstances. And Terra was kind of the same. Like, you play a Slayer or a Warrior. You could, with Warrior, you could do like... you could kind of dance around monsters and do like cleave damage, so that you could solo big monsters, but otherwise it was literally just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you wait for your cooldown and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what I miss from World of Warcraft, and that's what World of Warcraft did well. That some classes had like internal, you know, like a metagame kind of. So, let's say we just use these. So I found one with accuracy, right? Where's the storage here? Let's use the accuracy one over the AP one.
If you have a lot of stuff, leave it with me.
Well,
Within your allowed space, of course.
WoW Classic is literally one button. Like, I laughed at that when Classic came out and they started releasing parses. And I looked at like Ragnarok's parses for wizards, and it was literally just 37 frostbolts in the entire encounter. And like a trinket pop. So, for me, I don't pine for Classic at all. Because I remember what that was like. But when you're playing a healer or you're playing a tank, yeah, you have more things to think about, right? So I always play tank or healer. I liked playing Smite healer quite a lot. Especially in Mists of Pandaria, because it was so OP. I think it was Mists. Because you could literally smite, heal the entire dungeon, every single dungeon. So you could just sit there and just like spam damage and just try to do as much damage as possible to win the DPS parse, while at the same time you're just keeping everyone alive with like one shield. It was terrible. In reality, it was like terrible gameplay, or like design-wise, but it was still fun. In fact. We have melee accuracy. It gives us 8 accuracy. Let's use that one. And the damage reduction one. Or should I just go full damage? Let's just go full damage. Okay, so how does this work? Where is it? Artifact inventory. You like pop them in there. And then you click infusion. Do I have to equip them? Okay, so we want melee accuracy. No. Okay, there. So this one has rush and alert. I don't think we want either. We want rage marked, lungs marked. I was playing Classic on Turtle WoW with friends. I mean, as much as I think World of Warcraft is a piece of shit now, or especially Classic, as long as you actually have friends that you're playing with, it's all good, right? Like, I would probably not mind playing if I had friends to play with, but I don't, so. Okay. Now we need to go and grab some lightstones from my storage. Let's see, we put them down here somewhere. Is it in here? Zeal. Or are they all in the market? Here we've got some. I could just go damage reduction as well, but I think I'd rather switch to damage reduction if I need it somewhere, like if something hits really, really hard. Gonna make coffee? I'm gonna refill my coffee. I didn't have any coffee to refill with. Heart. Max HP. Rage. Grab a rage. And then we gotta go to the market, because I bought a bunch, but I guess I didn't grab them, but... I didn't see them, did I? Like, I know I bought a bunch.
You can entrust your goods without worry, since it's an
Yeah, okay, no,
official
they're
trade
just
zone
they're just
approved
chilling
by
there.
the head of the merchant
So we need
guild.
one rage. 2 marked. And a lungs. So these give accuracy. Let's just put the accuracy in the accuracy. Artifact. And then this is a damage one. Melee accuracy. Extra AP. There we put rage and lungs. That gives us not what I was told. Enhanced focus. It's worse than it says here. Outdated list, I guess. Fucking scammed. Right, let's look for accuracy. So maiming actually gives this. And target openings, that one looks good. But that, apparently, I think that one needs a strike, and I think that one is super rare. I'm not sure if that's the case. But otherwise, the one we got here, this is pretty much the best one, without losing too much stuff. Edit presets. Okay, so now we pop these in. Click edit presets. We want that and that. Save preset. No, we want that. Now we should have really good accuracy. Someone is DMing me. Oh, alright.
You won't lose out if you trade through me.
And we're gonna try a new grind place today. There. $30 more accuracy today. Where's my horse? This is not an equipment preset, but it's kind of. You have 2 artifacts, and the artifact it's just like a container for gems, but it also gives a minor bonus on its own. This one gives 8 melee accuracy, this one gives a little bit of extra damage against monsters, but they have like set bonuses. This one, for example, with the gems I put in here, gives me an extra all damage, all accuracy, and also stamina, which just lets me dodge and stuff more, I think. So you can have presets for that. So now we are going to try. I don't know if it's just this. Like, it's just Swamp Nagas right there. Because I don't know anywhere else where it says Swamp Naga. I think it's just that one. Well, let's just go, I guess. So, I wouldn't mind going over here, Calpheon, and grind, but I'm too weak to grind almost anything there. In Elvia. So let's try this. Also, let's change to good settings. Also turn on low power. Looks complicated? It's honestly not complicated enough in reality. Because there's one weapon, you get that weapon, that's it, end of story. The only gearing choice that you have is, do you want to PvP or do you want to PvE? That's the only thing. And then, for me now, it's like, either I get a little bit more accuracy, or I just get more damage. And that was like my choice there. However, it is kind of difficult to get into the game because there are lots of complicated systems, but it's all like catch-up systems. It's like, okay, first you make a seasonal character, and in season you get like a special season gear that it is easier to get like level up and enhance. And once you get that to maximum level, to pen, then you can convert it to boss gear once you leave the season. And then you can use special quests, which I forgot to pick up. We have to go find Jatina. To get materials to like upgrade the gear guaranteed, and then after that you can convert it into another type of gear. But you can't do it with your weapons because you can't convert the weapon to another piece of gear, so it's like a waste of resources to do it. And it's very overwhelming for new players, and then once you get through it, you're kind of underwhelmed instead. Oh no, is this the song we're gonna have to listen to for an hour? Like Mozart. Yeah, I have to pick up a quest every day to kill 3,000 monsters. We'll see if it's faster at August. Yesterday it took 2 hours, which was kind of annoying. That's a little bit too long for me. Alright, let's see here. Subjugation. Desert Naga Temple. Now we have to pick the 3001. Right. I don't actually know how Elvia works, so we'll find out, I guess. Elvia is like a different version of the world, and you enter it, and old zones now are high level, which is a way to not waste like all the effort put into developing that, which in my opinion is a good thing. It's actually a pet peeve of mine, where I really don't like level-based games, especially not when it ends up being like the world is like one zone at the end, because the rest is just outdated and because you're overleveled. There are still trade routes. It's a thing because they wanted this to be a sandbox game where you can do whatever you want and progress and gain money and gear up for whatever you're doing. It's super boring, but you can do it. However, trading sucks right now, and so it's like, whatever. But you can do it. If you like having the game as like a Tamagotchi on the side. something. Alright, let's see how this goes. Here there's also boat stuff, like you can trade with boats, or you can use boats to barter. You go and buy low-level items, and then you barter it for higher-level items, and then you just do that forever, pretty much. Okay. This is way harder than advertised. What the fuck? Garmouth says Swamp Naga Habitat 260 to 330 DP. What does that mean? 260 AP. This is 260 AP? I mean, I don't have 260 AP. I have 251. But I was doing this, which is 260 AP, and it was like really easy. So okay, I guess we can't do this. Alter Imps. Did we try that instead? I didn't even manage to kill one here. Did they have to make the entire place green though? Where do we leave our horse? Here somewhere. Okay, so this is the right place, right? This is also too hard. It makes no sense. This is 240 AP recommendation, and it's way harder than Star's End. Like 10 times harder. What the fuck is this? Also, I'm gonna do this. Combat volume 30. There. Too much clonk clonk clonk. Party of 2 optimal. Okay, well, that explains that. So what do we try next? Wasting scrolls. We want to go all the way down there. I don't really, but also leave Elvia. I am clearly not strong enough for anything in Elvia, because that was like the weakest place here. I'm trying to find a new grind spot. The one I was at yesterday wasn't bad, but it took too long to finish my daily. Otherwise, I would just go back there. I just want my daily to be finished, because I need to do my daily for like 3 months. I don't want to struggle every day to do the daily. It's gotta take an hour, not more. And I haven't really bothered grinding these guys over here that much. I've been here in Mount Shaun Forest, and that was super easy. There is dungeons, or there is a dungeon now. There is one 5-man thing. You can solo it as well, apparently. Otherwise, no, there's not much party content, but there are party grind areas. Let's see. Like here, Mirmark Ruins, Party 2 to 3 recommended. And grinding is the main content of the game, regardless. There's another area here that says Party of 5 recommended. Party of 3 recommended there at Olan. Party of 2. Yeah, here's the Party of 5. There, Gaifin Raisha. Gaifin Raisha. There you can go and grind with friends. But no, the game is still, and has always been, you go to a field of monsters, and then you kill them. The game honestly hasn't gotten that much more content since I played. That was 9 years ago. And it's kind of funny. Like, they've added a bunch of new zones. They have this area down here, the elf area. Down here, Odilita, this is the dark elf area. Mountain of Eternal Winter, snow area. Righan, this is Viking area. Or whatever. They're gonna add a new area here. And they also added Korea up here. But there's no real content that they've added anywhere except for here. In Land of the Morning Light, they added a boss rush mode. where there are a bunch of bosses that you can do every week, and you can challenge like higher ranks of the bosses. And then you get rewards for killing them. Based on based on your ranking and which tier of the boss you did. And based on which boss you did. So if you're into like boss fights and stuff, then they've added that. And you don't actually need gear for them. Because it kind of like normalizes your gear, which is weird, but that's how it works. It's just like it's a way for them to like add another way to play the game. Like if you don't like grinding, you can just log in and do your bosses that for that week. And then maybe you like doing bosses and maybe you like sailing, then you can just do bosses and sail. You don't have to grind at all. I think that's kind of the idea behind it. That it's not meant to be like instead of grinding or anything, it's meant to be like its own thing. That's why trading and fishing and all of that kind of feels useless on its own. That's because it's like meant to be its own game, and you're not supposed to really make money with fishing to upgrade your grinding gear. It's more like if you like just passively fishing in the game in the background, it's like a thing you can do, kind of. Or just go fishing or whatever. Upgrade your fishing gear. I don't think it's necessarily good design in general, like overall, but I play this game for the grind and long-term grind. And there are just no other Korean MMOs that are worth playing that are out that has it anymore. My favorite thing is dungeons. I understand that. Yeah. It does have the one dungeon, but apparently it sucks and it's like a puzzle dungeon, but I haven't done it. It does have bosses too though. But it doesn't have tanking because there are no like tank classes. I haven't tried it yet though. So it's more about like 5 people doing mechanics. We're almost in Thornwood, and then we'll try Thornwood, I guess. I don't really know what to expect. As long as I don't get one-shotted. See, I like dungeons, but at the same time, I kind of hate dungeons. In World of Warcraft and in Final Fantasy XIV, it's like I like tanking and doing dungeons and pushing them, and I like parsing DPS. But the existence of them means that the rest of the game kind of becomes useless trash. Especially with Dungeon Finder. And without the Dungeon Finder, I don't like doing dungeons because it's too much fucking work. Okay, so we are now here. We are here to kill Ahibs. Whoa, shit. These guys die a lot faster. What was that? Big ass dog. I feel like this is unfortunately gonna be slow again. I wonder if we can pull multiple packs in a way that makes any sense here. Without dying. Yeah, I hate quests. Questing is the worst. I don't even want a main story in my MMS. Okay! I don't want to be here. There's too much CC. They just like randomly stun me. Why was I down for like 5 seconds? What the fuck was that? If I die one more time, I'm leaving. Well, I do like fighting big monsters. It is unfortunately horrendous for doing the Jatina quest. Because killing 3,000 big monsters, it's a lot slower than killing 3,000 small monsters. Otherwise, there are really no MMOs on the horizon. The only thing I'm waiting for is the next Final Fantasy XIV expansion, but I don't like Final Fantasy XIV that much. Like, I just kind of like coming back, do the story, and then just do the content once and then kind of leave. Especially since they dumbed down tanks, made them really unfun to play. Am I forgetting something? I don't know. There's like 400 buffs and shit in this game that you... Oh yeah, no, I did forget something. I didn't take the church buff. That's 8 AP that we're missing, but whatever. Not worth going back now. Need to have like a checklist for grinding. Hold on. I don't know, how long have we been playing? 3 weeks? 4 weeks? I have played Ion. I've played most MMOs. There are some few that I haven't. I have to write something. This is the worst grind session ever. Okay. Yeah, Ion. Ion suffered a little bit from questing syndrome, but it's like questing has been a problem in MMOs for ages now. Like ever since World of Warcraft came in and kind of enforced it. And it also, I don't think it really had, because that's what I look for at least. I look for like class complexity to some degree. You know, the class having like an internal little game. Like maybe you have resources that you build. You know, World of Warcraft does it, or did it pretty well, where if you're playing a Death Knight, for example, you're managing your runic power, while at the same time you're managing runes, and spending your runic power generate like death runes, and then the death runes you can use to have like, you know, spam more obliterates, and sometimes you need to, you know, hold off on tapping those because you might have like a burst phase coming up and stuff like that. And that's missing from a lot of games. Like Final Fantasy 14, it's got some of that, right? Like it does have class mechanics and stuff, but it's a little bit too much like just a rotation often. Some classes are a little bit more complex to keep track of everything, like playing a black mage, where you have like 4 different meters that are just like all time-based. I like playing black mage because of that, but it's also kind of frustrating because it's easy to lose track of what the hell you're doing, and then you lose like giga DPS. And Ion, I think Ion was kind of just straight. You do attack and then you do the next attack and then you do the next attack with auto attack weaving in between, which felt kind of cool to do, but it was, in reality, it's a really weird and dumb mechanic. Like, why is it even a thing? But I did like Ion quite a lot. And I think back to it quite often. Because nowadays, a lot of games like introducing flying. Or they like to introduce gliding mechanics. Like Arcade introduced gliding mechanics. This game now has gliding mechanics. You know, there are plenty of games that try to add it. But it all feels like shit compared to Ion. Because the gliding in Ion was really nice. Like, it was really enjoyable to like scale random hills to just go flying, not or to go gliding, because you could gain so much distance, and it just felt really nice, especially when you managed to get a lot of distance on it. But it did have a good character creator. Like, when people say that, I'm like, okay, so it had a bunch of sliders and shit, but in reality, what it comes down to is like what kind of faces can you have and what hairstyles are available, pretty much. But Ion had really like a really solid selection of all of it, hairstyles, faces, and all of it. Now, what it also had was PvP that was faction based, and it was aerial, and it was fucking trash. Like, the actual flying in the game was so horrendously bad, while the gliding was like amazing. I mostly played Tree of Savior though. Like, I've gone back to playing World of Warcraft every expansion. I stopped at Battle for Azeroth or whatever because it was way too expensive, and Blizzard just turned to shit by then. But otherwise, I've mostly played Tree of Savior. I have like 3,500 hours in Tree of Savior. So the game is a piece of shit. Is the stream lagging? Yeah. This game on the remastered controls, it eats so much resources, it's crazy. I need a new GPU for it to stream it. Like, it's peaking my GPU, it's at 100%. Which is really crazy. There are, like I said, there aren't that many MMOs on the horizon that really seem interesting. But there are a few. There's the Throne and Liberty game from NCSoft, which is like an Omegalo because it's NCSoft, but it's not like any MMO developer has been like stellar in the past. So even if it's NCSoft, you know, maybe they've learned something over the years. Maybe they've got a new team. It's been like 20 years. So I'm willing to look at it at least. It looks kind of like this game, gameplay wise. But most MMOs that are coming out now seem to have a survival or sandbox element to it, which I like, but it's like either it's like it could be amazing, but most likely it's total dog shit. Because that's what this game is, right? Like, it has a bunch of like life skilling and sandbox mechanics, but they're all fucking suck ass. And they're like all meaningless. Perfect World, it was the only MMO that my computer could handle. I mean, that's a fair reason to pick it, right? I've tried playing Perfect World, but the times I have, or the times I tried, it was just... I just couldn't do it. Because then I was like, oh, they have like auto-pathing stuff and shit, this is so lame. But now that I'm playing this game, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad it has auto-pathing. Though in reality, I don't like auto-pathing, but within the context of this game, I'm glad that it's there. $450 out of 3,000. This is gonna be a 2-hour grind today as well, because we fucked up so bad in the beginning. big doggy. I don't know where all those, like, super stuns came in from before. Like, why am I not getting killed all the time again? Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Nope. Oh, here it comes. I mostly play MMOs or ARPGs, but I'm kind of tired of all video games at the moment. That's why I just want to play this game now and just grind. I don't want to do story. I just really don't want to do story stuff. Unfortunately, I had to do that. I had to go through all the main story in this game. Took forever. Up the rotation, but whatever. It's not like I need it. And the Quinfall is another MMO. So there aren't that many. There's like 3 that I know of that I feel might have some potential. The Quinfall, Throne and Liberty, and what am I thinking of? Oh yeah, Ashes of Creation. So Ashes of Creation, I have absolutely zero hopes for, but I know that it's there. Like, it might come out and it might be good, I guess, but I am expecting absolutely nothing. I've watched a lot of their dev updates, and I am not impressed at all. At least so far, because I care about mechanics too much, and their presentations are just graphics pretty much so far. And that's like, I don't know how many years in. But what I am interested in is this new focus on like exploration and stuff. To see if they actually manage to do something with that. But I doubt it, because it's ridiculously hard to design. And I say that as a game designer. Like, designing systems and stuff is what I enjoy doing. And designing some kind of like survival, open world MMO where all the mechanics make sense within context and together is the absolute most insane thing to design that you can ever attempt. It is so difficult. For very, very many reasons as well. The thing about sandbox MMOs is that it kind of just boils down to, like, where do you farm? It just boils down to this game, pretty much. Like, where do you farm? There's nothing else that really makes any sense, for the most part. Cause like what do you do? What do you do? What are you killing? What are you doing? And why? Like in a typical MMO, you're just like progressing through the story to get to the end. Like MMOs are basically just Diablo 2 in reality. You just go through the story until you can get to the grind. And then it's just a matter of what content is it that you do to get the good gear, right? And then after that, what do you do with your good gear? And then if you want a game where it's like more exploration based or whatever, then you need the world to matter more. And then you need to start thinking of alternative systems like Guild Wars, where you have, or Guild Wars 2 specifically, where you have level scaling everywhere, which is good for playing in a party. But at the same time, the level scaling sucks ass, and it still like ruins. Like if you're a max level guy with max level gear in Guild Wars, and you go to a low level zone and try to play with a friend, while it is scaling you down, you're still ruining the experience because you're still that much more powerful. And at the same time, it's like useless for you. Like, the low level area just, it doesn't really matter. And removing levels is even harder. It's now like there's like no, you need this like progression phase. Because the game isn't actual, like MMOs aren't really actually good games. In reality, like you're kind of just walking. You're kind of just walking around between like different fucking fetch quests. And in the progress you get like slightly stronger, so you can go to a different fetch quest. And it also gives you like new gear that looks different. So it's like all just psychology there. Like none of it is actually good or matters. But it's a really important psychology. It's very, very difficult to get rid of or change. Because then you'd have to make a game that actually is good. And that's very difficult. Because you need a gameplay loop that like makes sense. It depends on what exactly you mean with the gameplay, but you are right. People don't care about gameplay that much, even if they say they do. It's more about like the overall experience. Most people can't even formulate what gameplay is. But MMOs have really good gameplay in general when it comes to like RPG gameplay. Like it's the peak when it comes to RPG gameplay. By far, it's not even close. In like all games almost. Like if you compare an MMO to like, I don't know, The Witcher or something. Like World of Warcraft wins every time when it comes to gameplay in reality. But what you do with that gameplay is completely asinine. It is so bad. There has to be like something that matters. And that's why they make it story-based, because that's an easy way to do it, you know. The story is literally just a vehicle to get your character to the game. Like, the story is meant to be like a journey. I don't know if you play Path of Exile or Diablo, but Path of Exile, while I think it's a bad choice, Path of Exile specifically makes you run through the story to get to mapping in the end, which is the end game, with every character. And they have long talked about changing it or not. And the reason they're not changing it is because there's a very significant like player psychology thing going on there, where if you remove it, there's like this struggle part of the game where you're just like slogging through the story to finally get to the end, that helps make the end game more fun and more engaging. And like the leveling phase is kind of the same in an MMO, where you become like a lot more invested in your character and in the game, because leveling fucking sucks. Which is strange, but it's true. I think like Witcher 3 is one of my favorite RPGs. I think the plot is terrible, but I think that the writing overall for like the side quests and stuff is really, really good. It's like the best we have in gaming. And the gameplay is terrible. Like, it works. It works fine. Like, it feels nice to play. But like the bosses all have like one attack. Like if you've done Heart and Stone or whatever it's called, when you're fighting the cursed guy who's like immortal or whatever, he has literally one move, and he just spams that move over and over again, and you just counter it, and then you hit him, and then he does it again, and then you counter him, and you hit him. He does not have any other moves, and like all the bosses are like that in the entire game. But yeah, like you have to manage to substitute this with something that's actually fun. And that means having an entire MMO where everything matters. Like all zones have to matter in some manner, and playing in the zones has to matter more than just going there to grind mobs for XP or doing quests. So it has to be something like Guild Wars 2, where you have rolling events all over the entire world all the time, and there has to be like consequences for it, and it has to be grand enough that players can't just always be there and just always win every encounter, because the zones have to like change and like adapt so that players can kind of like set up in areas and kind of adventure there and live there to some degree. So it's like super complex to make things matter in an MMO without it just being quest based, and then you leave when you're done with your quests, because you have to make like an entire game. Like the zones and the world has to have a gameplay loop in its own somehow. That is more than just XP bags. Otherwise, you might as well just stick with questing or something. Or literally just have XP bags and just make the game a grind game. And I think all of this is way too ambitious for any developer, especially modern AAA developers. And especially since it would be... You would have to have like a genius game developer or programmers to pull it off too. Not just programmers, like you'd have to have programmers who are also great game designers, which is even rarer. Programmers are rarely good game designers. In fact, they are often bad game designers. Both artists and programmers are generally bad game developers from my perspective, from my experience. Because artists generally don't care about game mechanics. They just care about like the overall feel of it, like the experience. In that sense, artists are really good at gauging. Like you can use artists really well when you're playtesting for like how average people will enjoy your game. Because artists, generally speaking, care more about like that. Just the overall feel, not really the gameplay. Programmers are a little bit trickier, because programmers are very special people. They have such a weird outlook on everything. But if you are a programmer and you don't have a good sense for game development, it's really hard to actually like program those kind of things. But the same is also true vice versa. If you're a designer, it's kind of hard to design things that make sense programming wise too. I think as a game developer, it's really important to be a bit of a do-it-all. In a larger project, of course, not everyone needs to be like that in a programming team. But it absolutely helps when people have a good, like, solid idea and a foundation for how things should be. Otherwise, you should expect a lot of reworks. But in game development, it's really, yeah, I'm both. Coding is actually incredibly easy. It's just hard to get started. But once you actually start doing it, it is really, really easy. Depending on how complicated you want to make things. But generally, it's just not. Making a 2D game, for example, pretty easy. However, the first step is the hardest one. Unless you just use engines. Like, you can just use engines. I just don't like using built-in methods for things, personally. So I complicate it a bit. Don't die. Because what that means is, like, if you want to make a tile-based game, you have to program the, like, rendering engine first, and that's the hardest thing to program. So, you have to start with the hardest part, and that sucks. Or you just use Unity's built-in shit, or you use Godont's built-in stuff. I would not recommend Unreal. Not for solo development. You'd need a very good reason to use Unreal. But I like thinking about MMO design now and then. So it's because it's one of the, when it comes to, like, the genres that I enjoy, I feel like I already know how to make those games. For all of it except for MMOs. There are other games that I don't really know what I would do or how to make it well. And that's because I don't play those games, like an RTS, for example. or fighting games are also hard to make, but I feel like fighting games are mostly just trial and error, just playtesting and just kind of designing things, but you can avoid a lot of pitfalls if you have enough experience. But also, like fighting games and RTS games, they're the same genre. It's like an RTS isn't a single player game. It's a really bad single player genre because it doesn't make any sense. Refill that. XP scroll is gone. We still have food. Oh well. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about, but what I mean with that is they're both chess. Playing chess against the computer is also retarded. Makes no sense. Because playing a fighting game against the computer means that you are trying to play a game where all the options are meant to be like rock, paper, scissors, right? You're supposed to use your like intuition to pick what to press based on what you think your opponent is going to do. And you can't do that against the computer. So there's like there's no reason to play it. And an RTS is the same. Like the only thing you can do against a computer in an RTS is basically practice your APM pretty much. Just like practice your macroing and just overpower the AI. Because the AI isn't gonna be making any real choices or anything like that. Maybe if you developed a really, really advanced AI, you could do it to some degree. But no, nobody has done it. Absolutely doable, but nobody does it. Because it's difficult. Very hard. But like we're making a turn-based RPG, and I've been developing a JRPG on my own as well. I really like JRPGs, except that I fucking hate every single JRPG that's ever been made, and they're all shit. But I like the basic idea and setup of a JRPG. Turn-based. It's laid back, chill, you don't have to stress out. You can just think, and it's more like a puzzle game in that sense. But they just don't do enough. Like every JRPG on the market is just it's just like one step away from Final Fantasy 1. Depending on your classification of JRPG. Mine is Final Fantasy clone. Like Dark Souls is not an JRPG. Persona is a JRPG. Wizardry is the JRPG. Octopath Traveler is a JRPG. I absolutely fucking hate Persona. But that's also partially because I don't really like anime anymore. I'm 35 years old now, and I'm animed out. I used to really enjoy anime, but I can't do it anymore. But gameplay-wise, I cannot abide by Persona games. Because it's... Yeah. Let's turn that on. Because it doesn't have gameplay. Final Fantasy doesn't have gameplay. Like, it's only now that they started making them into, like, pseudo-action games or even just straight-up action games that they actually added real gameplay to them. And even then, it's, like, borderline. It's, like, they turned them into really shallow button mashers, if anything. I haven't played 16, though, so I don't know. But it kind of looks like it. But otherwise, for JRPGs, there's like... There's no real difference between Persona 5 and Final Fantasy 1. It looks like there might be differences, but in reality there are no differences that matter. Because they all have they have the same gameplay loop. They have the same choices. The only difference in Persona versus Final Fantasy 1 is how much you are rewarded by participating in the one mechanic that exists, which is elemental resistance, or elemental weakness, rather. Persona 5 and 4 and 3 are literally the same game, so it just depends on how much you enjoy the story. Final Fantasy 1 was really pixelated. That's true, but that's not a gameplay feature. Like, gameplay-wise, the only difference between Persona 4 and 5 and 3... Well, 3 is a little bit different, right? Because in 3... Oh wait, does Persona 4 also have... I don't know which version of 4 lets you control your characters. Like, that's funny, right? Like, I don't know why that's a thing. It's like the worst thing ever. So, right, when Persona lets you control your characters, it's like an actual game. Before that, it's just a dog shit piece of shit. But in Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy games, when you use an elemental weakness, you do double damage, pretty much. Sometimes you have, like, do even more damage. And that's it, you get double damage. And that's the only thing that exists in Final Fantasy 1. Otherwise, it's like, do you heal or do you not heal? Like, do you attack or do you heal? Like, those are the only choices in reality. And in Persona, it's the same. Those are the only choices that you have. But in Persona, attacking an elemental weakness does more than do double damage. It increases your damage by 50%, which is less, but it also stuns the enemy, and it gives you a second turn, and then you can just do the elemental weakness again, so now you do 3 times more damage. And you also... Or you can do an all-out attack, which is also just an attack. It's like not an actual choice, it's not a real mechanic, it's literally just more damage. It's just a part of the elemental weakness bonus damage in reality. It's just split out into like new fluff mechanics that just are just buttons that feel cool and have cool animations. So what they've done is they've changed the balance between hitting an elemental weakness and just doing regular physical damage. So now, in Final Fantasy 1, doing a regular attack is just potentially half as strong as hitting an elemental weakness. While in Persona, doing a regular attack is like, it's like 10%, 20% as strong. So it's just not worth doing unless you have to do it. So now the only mechanic that exists in the game after that is using AoE elemental AoE elemental attacks to fish for these stuns so you can get your all-out attack. So every single encounter is just, if you don't know what the resistances are, you go in and you use your AoE attack, and then you use the next AoE attack, and then you use the next AoE attack, and then you use the next AoE attack, until you land all the hits. And that's it. There's just nothing else there. And yeah, that's my issue with JRPGs. That in reality they don't actually have gameplay. Because most of the time this mechanic also is within the context of you basically one-shotting the encounter. You little shit. Baton Pass? I'm not even sure what that is. But the reason I actually like Persona 5 less than 4 is because there's no logic behind what any enemy is weak against in Persona. It's just based on their type. And the type isn't like succubus or fairy or, you know, slimes or whatever. It's literally like exactly what it is determines what it's weak against. So if it's like a blue succubus, it's just weak to random shit. And if it's a red succubus, it's just weak to some other random shit. You just have to know. Because they're always the same, I think, in all the games. So if you know, then you know. But in Final Fantasy, for example, it's like certain archetypes have general weaknesses that are often true. Like skeletons are weak to fire. And then sometimes they're weak to healing magic, sometimes they're not. And frogs are weak against, and lizards in general are weak against ice. Etc, etc. So there you can kind of figure it out, but in Persona it's just completely ass random. And in Persona 5 they added more elements. So what they did was, before, it was like, you have, I don't know what it is, if it's 5 or 6 elements or something. So, you had like a certain average amount of spells, like AoE spells you had to use before you just finally managed to find the right element, right? So in Persona 5, they added 3 more elements. So what that did was it just increased the average duration of every encounter, because now you have more elements to go through before you successfully hit the elemental weakness randomly. And that is why I absolutely do not enjoy Persona 5. And that's what I'm trying to build on. Like I'm trying to use like MMORPGs more as a building block, and use like skills and make characters have kits in a sense. Where it's more than just like this character has 3 fire spells, and that's it. I don't know if you played Arcage, but Arcage is also, it's a good... it's got some good design choices, where you have like certain skills that interact with each other, with combos. I really liked, if you played an Elementalist, you could use Bubble Prison, which CC'd enemies and put them in a bubble. But it also made Lightning Strike do more damage on them. So you could CC somebody, and then you could cancel the CC by using Lightning Strike, which then caused more damage because you used the other ability to set up for it. It wasn't very advanced there, but it existed. Like if you snared somebody and then you charged them, you would knock them down instead of... Otherwise, charge would just snare them as well. So it had a bunch of stuff like that where you had some mechanics and you kind of set up for future damage. Okay, so you can just... So they made it even stronger. They made elemental weaknesses even stronger. But yeah, I barely even consider that a gameplay mechanic. Because it's kind of just like... do more damage, always. One of the few JRPGs that I feel actually... let's... Is there a Marnie realm here? And if so, where? Grandia. I don't know if you've played Grandia, but Grandia is one of the few JRPGs that have actual choices in it, in combat. It's still very, very shallow, but it's still more than most games have. Because there's a lot of context going on at all times in an encounter. Because certain enemies might be, you know, they might be spaced out differently on the map, and then some enemies might be using like an enemy might be using a spell, and you can see who the enemy is targeting. And because you can see that the enemy is using a spell, you can see which spell it's using, you can see who it is targeting. You can then choose whether you are going to try to interrupt them and cancel their ability using a skill or using the special attack that cancels abilities, but it's slow. And you have to gauge, like, how far away am I? How fast does this character wind up before he attacks? Will I get there on time? Is it worth it? And because it has this there are actual, like, real choices. It's one of the few JRPGs where defend is actually a viable option, and it makes sense within the context of what's happening inside the fight. How the hell do I find the Marnie realm? This shit? We have to go over to the thing. Here. Yeah. But adding more mechanics is also a little bit difficult, because making encounters take longer isn't necessarily a good thing within the context of like how most JRPGs work. Because like Final Fantasy has frequent encounters all the time. And if they had more complicated mechanics, they would have to increase the duration that a fight takes, so that you can actually use those mechanics. Because a Final Fantasy encounter literally only lasts for one full round at most, on average. So you would have to like restructure the entire game to have just less encounters, but longer encounters. And that might mean just straight only having scripted encounters and nothing else, which is what we are doing right now, at least. That way you can design encounters to be as big as you want and take as long as you want. And you can also have room for more advanced gameplay mechanics within that, because it's just necessary. Or you can try making Final Fantasy with longer encounters, because you added like one extra layer of shit mechanics that don't actually do anything. That's what Octopath did. Octopath is also literally just Final Fantasy 1, but they added like shields to all the monsters, so that before you can damage the monster... Oh, come on. Before you can damage the monster, you need to break their shields, and that's literally, again, just the Persona gameplay, where you just go through all the weaknesses. So you have to... Now you have to hit an enemy with a dagger, and you have to hit him with a stave, and then you hit him with ice, and then you hit him with light magic. And now you can do real damage on him, and then you go into boost mode, which is literally just normal mode, except you do more damage now. And as a result, encounters take like shitloads of turns, and they still have random encounters. So the game is a total slog to walk like one screen in that game. $1,700 out of 3,000 enemies. But then you can also make a game that has actual mechanics, and then you can ruin it by adding another mechanic, which is also incredibly common. One Final Fantasy example there is Lightning Returns, which I don't think a lot of people have actually played. But in Lightning Returns, they added a really cool time system to the game, where side quests and stuff are due, like they have a time limit. So it's not necessarily true that you might do everything in one playthrough. So the game might have like different paths. You could argue whether this is a good mechanic or not, but it was really cool, and I did like it. But then they also added another mechanic after you get like 10 hours into the game or something, where you can pause the time. So now they have their mechanic there, and then they add another mechanic that pauses their mechanic. And the reason for this is so that you can do all the side quests in one playthrough. And the way you charge it is that you fight enemies. So what they then did was they created this retarded ass game where it's literally just a normal Final Fantasy game, except to play the game normally, you have to do every single encounter that you see. Like, you have to run from enemy to enemy, even if there are no random encounters, but you see enemies on the map. So now you have to run to every single enemy so that you can charge the time stop mechanic, so that you can like rush around and do all the side quests. It's like super giga stressful. And in the end, all they did was make literally the same game that they've always done, but with extra steps, and it's stressful and fucking sucks. Or there's a game called Shadows of Adam, which is an indie JRPG. And there they have... enemies have like certain... it's not particularly deep, but it has... it tries to do something at least. So certain enemies are agile. If they're agile, you use spells or you use skills that are like high, like specifically like high accuracy. And then you kill them that way. And if enemies have high armor, then you use a different type of enemy ability, or if they're like this and that, you know. So there's like a trinity. You use this against that. So all the characters kind of get an identity based on that. But then when you get towards the end, they just give you abilities that just kill all enemies. So they're like, yep, here's the final dungeon. It doesn't have like the mechanics of the rest of the game, so you just kill all the enemies regardless, because you now have abilities that just kill all the monsters. So they just like deleted their whole game at the end for like no reason. Happens a lot. Yeah, I understand that. It's kind of meant, or a mechanic like that is kind of meant to facilitate multiple playthroughs, but at the same time it feels like shit when you fail to do like a quest, or you're like 1 minute too late to get like the good outcome in the story or whatever. So I'm not a huge fan of that kind of mechanic for a story game. I would like something like that more for, you know, some kind of procedural like adventure game. But the solution to the issue is the problem, right? Because they could have just not had that mechanic in the first place, and it would have been the same. Pathologic? I have not heard of this game. My dream game that I'm working on is Giga Project. Ray traced, procedural, build things wherever you want, voxel based. Yeah, like I said, procedural, like content. Procedural events spawning and, you know, things happening in the world, NPCs living in the world and doing shit and whatever. Completely impossible project, but I am working on it. However, I haven't had the energy to deal with it for ages. But I am working on the rendering engine, which is pretty close to functional, but there's too much math. I can't do it while I'm also working on the map for our other pixel art game, which also uses a ray tracing rendering engine, by the way. Not that that means much to non-programmers, but we actually have like dynamic shadows and light in the game. And all the tiles are actually Minecraft cubes. And you can walk behind them, so it's actually a 3D world that we have. Main game is walking. It's just like this game. This game is all about walking. Or just any MMO. But I think in reality, if I were to start up development on a side project after I'm done with like the worst programming on Legends of Terrestria, would be an ARPG. I really like ARPGs, but they have the JRPG syndrome. I don't approve of the gameplay in them. I don't know if you played Lost Ark, but Lost Ark has pretty good gameplay. And I would like something like that. Closer to that for an ARPG. While at the same time having like ARPG progression instead of like raids and shit. Oh, shit, you can throw these guys? Not that it matters, because the throw is dog shit. But you can't throw almost any enemy in the entire game. Just a pixel art ARPG. The issue there is art. Because like if you're playing Diablo 2, when you equip gear there, it shows on your character. But doing that with 3D is so easy. Doing it with pixel art is absolutely ludicrously insane. And I would like to do it. I actually don't mind doing heavy animations. I think I'm actually, it's like, as an artist, I think that's like my strong part. I'm very good at making long animations without feeling like too overwhelmed. It still takes a long time, but it doesn't take like insane amounts of time. I could absolutely be faster though. I haven't done art in ages. That was actually kind of what I was doing with my big project. I was learning to do 3D. And I wanted to make a pixel art shader for 3D. Which is almost impossible. It might be possible. Like, it is obviously possible. But making one that isn't dog shit is what's impossible. Plenty of people have made pixel art shaders. They are all horrendous. Or only fit for very specific cases. $1,000 more enemies to go. I'm kind of curious if Aquaman is really that bad. I guess Aquaman really depends on if you get earrings or not. But even so, I don't know, man. None of these areas feel great, but I'm actually, I think I'm in reality at like the average silver per hour, so it's not really that bad. Global average silver per hour is 250 million an hour. But you can make up to 1 billion. So the main issue is the Jetina quest. That's really important to me right now. Because I guess that's what we're farming right now, the ring. I want to farm a Black Star weapon, but that feels like the last thing I should work on in reality. Because you'd have to almost max upgrade a Black Star weapon for it to be better than the Dandelion. Like it has to be 10, which is insane farm for like an AP or whatever it is. You're back. Welcome back. I'm looking forward to Path of Exile 2 a bit, but we'll see. It depends on what they do with it. I want to like Path of Exile, but I can't. Passive tree is too shallow. The Path of Exile 2 seems to address that to some degree. They haven't shown anything of the passive tree, so the passive tree can still ruin the game, but they seem to really hard lean into the game being more about multiple abilities and mixing like ability types and stuff, which is just impossible in Path of Exile 1. So we'll see. I still think they have boomer design on it. I hate boomer design. But we will see. All in all, I still think Diablo 3 is the best ARPG. Which is funny because the game is fucking god-awful. But it's the only ARPG that approaches MMO gameplay. It barely does it. Barely. But it does it a little bit. And to me that is enough. I mean, it's completely unplayable now, but it is what it is. I want to fight somewhere with bosses. Like, I really liked Star's End. I would like to go back there. But I cannot. The only way I could go back to Star's End is if I can up my killing speed, like, by the double almost. And I can't do that. Progressing gear in this game is impossible. But this game is a little bit tricky. I genuinely do not understand why games do what this game is doing. I think an MMO should have, like, Tree of Savior did stats right and incredibly wrong at the same time. In Tree of Savior, the way everything works is like giga hidden. Nothing makes any fucking sense. And they have like if you want to know how high your crit chance is, you can't just look at your stat sheet. You have to go and look up the formula for critical hit rate. And then you have to look up your whatever you're hitting's critical resistance. And then you have to calculate your crit based on those two values. And that's just awful. You should never overcomplicate it that much. But I feel like every Korean MMO does that, and I don't understand why. Like, mechanically, why they opt in to do it. Like, this game, you have AP. And AP is your attack power. That's what it stands for. But at the same time, it's like, you get, like, bonus AP based on your AP. And you're like, what does that mean? And yeah, I have no clue, dude. But like, if you go in here and you look, it says AP 249 plus 57. And you're like, okay, well, maybe that's your buffs. But then you go in here and it says AP 387, which isn't the result of what we were looking at here. Not even close. So it's like, when you get to certain brackets of AP, like if you get 261 AP, for example, then your actual AP spikes. You get like plus 20 bonus AP for whatever fucking reason. So sometimes it's like really, really, really important to have a ring that gives you +1 compared to another ring that like only gives you one less. It can be a huge difference, I think, but I don't understand exactly how it works because it's so convoluted and hidden. I don't know, dude. Because of that, I think AP matters a lot more than it seems at first glance in this game. What we're gonna do, if there's like any time at all, after this, is do the adventurer logs, because they will give you, I don't know how much it is, if it's like 1 AP or 2 AP, or if it's like 9 AP or something, for all your characters. And if I'm right, then 9 AP, or 1 AP even if it sounds like dog shit, it could be massive. But again, I don't understand why that is a thing. Like, why are they overcomplicating it that much? Like, what problem are they solving by adding this? It makes no sense to me. I kind of, like I was saying about Tree of Savior, there, what they did was, and they went away from this later for some godforsaken reason. They made all enemies have a type and an element. And if you're older like me, you might have played Ragnarok Online. Tree of Savior is literally the true Ragnarok Online 2. More so than Ragnarok Online 2, because Ragnarok Online 2 is made by different people. Tree of Savior is made by Kim Hakyu, or Hakyu or whatever, who made Ragnarok Online 1. And they're literally, like, so close to the same game. So enemies are like an insect, or they're a devil, or they're a mutant. And all of these have like base multipliers for their stats. So if they're a mutant, they have a really high multiplier for their defense. So if you're fighting mutant monsters, you know what to expect. And you can also build for it. But that also makes the game very, like... You have to specialize for whatever you want to do. Which isn't... Like, it's kind of nice. But it's also kind of like, is it? I don't want to say that it's good or bad, but it has its merits. It also has its issues. But what this means is that they can always balance everything in the game by just making sure that the base types are balanced. That way they can add like a level 1000 spider or a level 200 spider or a level 3 spider. And it's all fine. Like, all they have to do is just balance gear in the same way. Like, a level 50 sword gives this or that much. I don't think Ragnarok was super popular in Russia. I mean, kind of? 2000, it's a bit late though. For Ragnarok. It came out in like 2000. But yeah, then all they have to do is really balance the weapons and just make sure the characters have like stats that also make sense with all of that. And yeah. 500 monsters left. I'm a big fan of cooldowns in general. Cooldown gameplay is nice. Cooldowns and procs. Procs have an issue though. Like if you're playing World of Warcraft and you're playing an Arms Warrior, you have that mechanic where you keep rend up and then it gives you procs of overpower. I like that, but you have to do what they did later on, where you have visuals in the middle of the screen that show that something is available. Otherwise, it's terrible. But you don't really want the player to be looking at the bar all the time. That's not really good. That's a big issue with Final Fantasy XIV. It's way too bar heavy. Like you're not even looking at the game 90% of the time because it has so many abilities. And it's all just cooldowns. In that sense, I think charges and resources is a better way to do things. I still think cooldowns are fine, just have less of it. That way it's easier to have more elaborate ways to show that something is available. Like you can literally show effects on the character or play sound effects or whatever. If it's not your entire bar. So today I didn't use my Agrias. We're gonna get less loot just for that. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. This is an issue with cooldowns, though. You try to use an ability and it just doesn't do anything. And that's definitely a thing I think they could improve in this game. Because everything, I don't think there are any classes with. No, the striker has a resource, but I think it's just you build up the resource, and then you like use one ability with it. But if you have a secondary mechanic with your cooldowns, the cooldowns become a lot less mandatory and a lot easier to manage when not everything is cooldown based. But cooldowns are an essential way to design more interesting mechanics and functions. Because if you don't have cooldowns, it's almost impossible to make abilities and functions that have any meaningful power, because you can't limit them in many other ways that make sense for most things. You could say mana, but mana isn't really proper limitation. Mana is just an ammo pool. So if you limit like stuns and stuff, you know, more situational things by a mana pool, then all you're doing is just making a game where you need to play the game as little as possible. That's why World of Warcraft moved away from mana in that sense. For one. Final Fantasy XIV also doesn't do mana. Because mana management is an anti-fun mechanic. And if you base like a stun or something on charges, for example, you can do that. They do that with the rogues in World of Warcraft. But then it also changes the identity of the stun. Now it's not like a reactionary stun. Now it's just a way to... It's more like damage mitigation now. You're just using it so that the enemy can't attack you or move, and then you go back and you backstab it. Because you can't really control when you have like the combo points. So using it as an interrupt means that you have to know that something is coming like right now. Otherwise you're just wasting time and DPS, just standing there waiting. And it just doesn't make any sense. In PoE 2, they are making abilities have functions outside of just doing damage. Like they're making Leap Slam, instead of just being a movement ability, it can now stun enemies really well. But then only some enemies are actually worth stunning. So now what they've done is, instead of having like a real utility button, all they've done is that they've added functionality to Leap Slam where you can stun a boss now and then. Like, I don't know, it doesn't really feel... It doesn't feel like it's like part of your actual gameplay or the actual gameplay. Just like a mechanic that's just kind of there. Because like, what does it do otherwise? Nothing. I'm still not gonna gather up a pack and like Leap Slam them. There's no point. In Diablo 3, you have Warstone, which is the stun. And Warstone gives you resources. It can do damage. You can spec it so that it can pull in enemies. So that way you can like use it offensively every 15 seconds to regain resources. It lets you keep attacking. And at the same time, it sets up enemies to be bursted down even harder. So it's like every part of that skill is well designed. And that's why I say that Diablo 3 is the best ARPG, because it has the Barbarian, which has this kind of design. But that's also the only good thing about it. And they removed it. They removed it with the rest of their design. Like I said. Because they made it pointless to use based on... My gear is breaking. Which is really unfortunate, because I only need to kill 250 more monsters. With unlimited mana, skill required token. I'm not sure how Invoker works. We unfortunately have to leave, because my gear is too broken. I even repaired before we went here. But you have to think beyond like a cool mechanic or whatever. You have to think about the entire gameplay loop. So for example, if you have a basic attack and you hit with the basic attack and that builds one charge, and then you have an ability that uses like 3 charges to do more damage, you in reality don't have any abilities. You only have a basic attack. It just looks like you have more abilities, and it feels a little bit better that you have like 2 things, but it's not doing anything. It's literally just one attack. It's just like average damage done. And there are like no choices involved or anything. Now, I don't know where the closest merchant is here. Saphir Quartermaster, is that it? For example, let's go back to Diablo 3. Let me explain why I think the Barbarian is well designed. If you play a wizard in Diablo 3, or if you play a wizard in Diablo 2, you get Frozen Orb. And then you use Frozen Orb. Frozen Orb spam is only limited by your in Diablo 2 your mana, or in Diablo 3 it's your Arcana. Or Arcane Power. So now you need to equip more abilities on your wizard, because you can have 6 abilities equipped. So you equip Frozen Orb, and then you equip Enchanted Weapon, which is a passive that gives you more damage. And then you equip Arcane Familiar, which is a passive, and it gives you more damage. It also makes you regen more arcane power per second. And then you equip maybe Black Hole. Black Hole lets you pull in enemies. It doesn't do worthwhile damage, but it pulls in enemies. And that's all it does. It just pulls enemies in, and then you can nuke them with Frozen Orb. And then you have Teleport, which is a teleport. And then you have Crystalline Shell, which is like a damage reduction thing in case enemies hit you too hard. And that's about it. And then you use Frozen Orb forever. But if you play a Barbarian, can't prepare here.
The fallen ones who absorb the power of Torso as a whole. Aren't they our perfect sparring partners and our prey?
If you play a Barbarian, you still pick like a Frozen Orb equivalent. You pick Hammer of the Ancients, you pick Whirlwind, you pick Rend, you pick Seismic Slam. And all these are just glorified melee attacks. Like they don't have real mechanics, they just do damage. It's just your attack, which is fine. But the Barbarian's abilities, or the Barbarian's resource, doesn't regen all the time. In fact, it goes down. It's just like a warrior in World of Warcraft. So you have to use you have a primary ability and a secondary ability. And the primary ability is weak and it builds meter. And your right click is a stronger ability. So that's just like what I said before. Like you just have you just have a basic attack and then you have a like a combo point spender, and it doesn't really do anything. It's just like a roundabout way of just attacking an enemy. But then the barbarian can also pick more abilities. But instead of just having a bunch of basic passive shit that just gives you more damage and just like passive regen, you can have charge instead of teleport. Charge just like runs through the enemies, does damage, but it can also regenerate your resource when you press it, and then depending on how many enemies you hit, you gain your resources back. So that way you have a traveling ability that also functions as a way to get your energy back if you use it in an opportune time, where you know that I might not need this like right now to avoid taking damage. Then I can use this to regenerate my energy. And you can also use it to like reposition enemies for more damage, and you can just make it do more damage as well if you want to. And then you can have War Stomp, which you can make it do damage. It will stun enemies at the same time, and it also gives you energy back. And there are a bunch of abilities like this that have cooldowns and they have utility, and at the same time, if you manage them well, you have like this internal rotation going where you can keep up your right click depending on what you've chosen without having to left click that much. And it's like a very basic gameplay rotation, where it's like actually a game that isn't just left click, left click, left click, right click, left click, left click, right click. But like that's what's important to think about. Not just like what sounds cool on paper or like thematically or whatever, but what you actually end up doing in game, and how that can create fun gameplay. Unless you just want a brainless game. Like, a brainless game has merit. That's why I don't really think they should change Path of Exile from what it is too much. Because if they wanted that, they should just make a different game. But,
Every time I touch the weapons of the fallen ones, I have a nightmare.
if you want actual deep gameplay, there's a lot more to it. Like, you have to be challenged by it a little bit. You have to have things to keep track of. What's most important for learning game design is just playing shitloads of games. Because otherwise you're just gonna come up with the same idea that 100 other people have already had and already done to death. That's the issue with most games. They just do the same thing that we've already had 20 years ago. They just keep regurgitating it over and over. Research is important. Very important. But also, not just research, also mastery. Like, you have to learn a game. Because a lot of the time that changes how the game actually works in reality. Like how World of Warcraft works in Goldshire compared to how World of Warcraft works at top level rating are two very distinct things. Right? And both matter. It's even more important if you're making multiplayer games, because then you have to know how, like, high-level things like actually end up working. For me, it's like fighting games. That's the prime example. And also, I learned a lot playing fighting games. But fighting games are very notorious for things being ridiculously overpowered until you learn like one small timing. Like, oh, this block string has one small gap, like a 2-frame gap or something. And if I like do this like instant jump input, or I use this this move that I have like in that little window, then whatever the guy was doing now becomes like damage for me instead. And like small things like that. But not all games have that complicated mechanics either. But they might. But game design is difficult for two reasons. First of all, it's very hard to think of the entire thing within context. It's also very, well, not just two reasons, but it's also very hard to think outside of the box. And that's also why playing so many games is important, because without expanding the box in the first place, it's hard to think outside of it. And also, not everybody wants like hyper complex gameplay. Like, I specifically chose this class in this game because it's high actions per minute. And a lot of people just pick like Wizard or something, because you go in and you press one button and then they pack dice and then you go to the next one. So it's not necessarily always that more is better for everybody. That's why AAA games are generally very weak when it comes to gameplay mechanics, because they are specifically trying to not have complex gameplay, because it drives away people. Complex gameplay is a niche genre of game in general. For me, it's just I can live with games not being like super advanced. I still want that. I want advanced gameplay and mechanics. But the most important part is that it all makes sense within the context of itself, right? Like if you make an MMO and you make like this really cool gameplay system, and then the entire game is just like going around one-shotting monsters, then like who gives a shit that it has complex gameplay? Everything has to make sense with everything else. That is hard. What is going on? Am I going to die? What's going on? I think this is just like turbo spawn. It just makes enemies come at you forever. Which is a nice mechanic. Well. Alright. That was nice. Alright, we're done. Took forever.
Garment. Spawning in 15 minutes.
Holy shit. Am I fighting a boss? What's going on? I think I am. Yeah. Kind of shitty drops from it, but whatever. Where is my horse? But it's kind of difficult to design or to discuss like general game design ideas, because game design generally boils down to the specifics. Most things do. Like if you're making art, the difference between good art and bad art is like this big. And the same thing is true for game mechanics. Like one small tweak can be the difference between a game being good and trash. Balance as well. World of Warcraft became total dogshit when they made the entire world meaningless. Because they made everything too easy, because they wanted people to be able to level up fast. And then the game became totally worthless until max level. Because they forgot that some people just liked leveling. Not that leveling in WoW is very enjoyable, but I did play the Wrath of the Lich King. Classic launch, a little bit. I got to like level 45 as a priest, it was terrible. It's not fun. Alright, we should be able to jump in. Let's go to Balanos. Why are we going to Balanos? I actually don't really know. I'm not really sure where to go right now. Forced me to talk to people? I've never really done, never really had that experience with WoW. I'll be honest. Alright, so now we're gonna check how much money we got from that. But first we're gonna mute Garmouth there, and then we go into Grind Tracker. How long were we there? When did I start? Luckily, we're streaming, so I can check. An hour 20. We were there for 2 hours and 25 minutes. Ooh. Okay. Grind Tracker. They have this little website here where you can create. We were in Thornwood. We played Ninja Awakening. We did not use Agris. Did not really have additional... No, we did have additional drop. We used this, yeah. Was it night? I think it might have been night. Sure. And we were there for 2 hours and 20... Let's go with 25 minutes. Now, what did we get? We got... $1,803 plus 3,996. 5,799. That's actually why I stopped playing World of Warcraft. When they introduced sharding, I had to stop playing. Because I liked leveling. It's like the only thing I enjoy doing in WoW. Leveling and doing dungeons now and then. I don't like raiding, I don't like endgame PvP. And if you don't like that, there's nothing to do at endgame. But when they introduced sharding, it was impossible to play the game enjoyably because there's always somebody there doing quests at the same time as you. And Blizzard is such a piece of shit company that they don't know how to design. So almost every single quest puts you in an area that is designed monster count-wise, loot count-wise, item count-wise, and respawn count-wise to only support one person. If there are two people there, nobody gets enough items unless you party. And if you want to argue that that is good because it forces parties, sure. I strongly disagree. But yeah, that was special. I do like mega servers, and I do think it's a good thing. I just don't think it's good when the game is completely just quests. What is this? Oh, we didn't get that there. Okay, so we got 30 of those, we got 17 of those, 32 of those. We got 10 black crystals, I think. I'm not sure. Where's my video? So there was a quest to get these. And it gave us 20 sealed magic crystals. So we got 0 sealed magic crystals. That says 20, right? Oh, that sucks. So we got 0 crystals. 44 of these. 4 talons. This pink thing. Whatever it is, we didn't get any. We got 1 artifact. We got 1 lightstone. This is tedious, but it's the only way to really gauge how much you're profiting from an area. I think we lucked out. I think this is rare. But it's also worthless. Rare but worthless. Mass of pure magic. We might have gotten 3, I'm not sure. And if that is all we got, this was utter dog shit. Like, really, really awful. Silver per hour, 78 mil. Total silver after taxes, 198 mil. Or 189 mil. Now, it does drop silver. And I think it dropped like 1800 per mob or something, times 3000. So I think it dropped, let's type in 5 million there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. But yeah, this place was dog shit, like really awful. And slow. We'll just have to try somewhere else tomorrow then. Hello, Madroxide, how's it going? I'm just typing in my grind in the grind tracker to see how awful it was, and it was really, really bad. Star's End was 259, Thornwood Forest was 80 million an hour. That was not very enjoyable. Now that took like all night. So I don't really have that much more time today. But we're gonna see. I need to start doing the adventure logs. Let's see what we need to do and where to start.
I made a good choice coming here. Look, the fishes are fresh.
You can keep more goods if you get a house.
You can sell here?
And use it for storage.
Just here? Oh, wow, shit. God damn. That's insane. No. Not there. Here. Oh. Oh. Oh.
If you borrow a container from me, you can use the storage even at home.
Okay, then you can use that for barter goods too. Good, my ship is not good enough to do full barters, but sometimes I do it just to level bartering and to get my barter counts up. This is what they give you as a new player with the seasons. I haven't bought a single cron. In fact, I used like 1,000 for my Tuvala gear because I was a noob and I did not know that that was really bad. I have graduated, but it's just Tuvala gear. In reality, like it's just this. Like I do have the Pengriff helmet, but otherwise it's just trash. I have to wait until the reset to get more concentrated boss crystals. Seasonal gear is honestly like endgame gear, so make sure we hand in these things. I am just slowly working on these Fidgetina bullshit. Where's this guy? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Let's not go over there. I don't think we were done at the storage. I'm a little bit confused tonight. Feeling goalless. Even though I know exactly what we need to do. I've been spamming the story
The storage?
so hard that I've barely been doing anything else. And now I've finished Land of the Morning Light. The only thing that's left is Attraction. I don't really feel like doing it. It's 11 PM for me. Yeah, it is for me as well. Thanks for hanging, dude. I'll see you around. Have a good night. Up. We've got a bunch of crap. I don't know what this is. I've got a left lung. I think this is supposed to be a rare drop, but we got it in 2 hours. We got a lung. We also have a fragmented Elviayed, which I don't know what it is. So, what we need to do is this trash. So, from what I understand, you do Igor first. Then you do Morgrim. Right? It only gives HP though. Or is it someone else? Maybe I don't have whatever I need to do yet. No, it's this one, Book of Margahan. Okay, no, it is this one, but we need to do a lot of these. I think this one is done, right? Yeah. So now it's the second one. Butcher elks near beer. I gotta type this out. Adventure log. Butcher elk near beer. Hunt giant brown bear with matchlock. Hunt freshwater crocodile with matchlock and butcher. Give old tanning knife to lick a bear. Gain knowledge about rent carpentry tool from Pardon of Beyond City. Fill the Treant Forest with the sound of wood chopping. That one I don't understand. Because I've been chopping a lot of trees in there. Learn more about the stump glistening in mystical light. Find stump with glistening light in Treant Forest. Alright.
You can keep more goods if you get a house in town and use it for storage.
We have a matchlock. Is this guy level 30? Yes, level 30 horse. Let's make this easy on ourselves and pop it in and just take out the good horse. Let's see. Aren't there some bosses out? Vali is out. It's just barely worth going in there. Like, teleport takes so long that it's barely worth going in there. If you are not traveling more than two zones. Let's go kill this guy before he levels down even more. From what I understand, higher level bosses drop like slightly more blackstones. It shouldn't matter much, but might as well, since I'm gonna kill them anyway. I don't know if this makes any sense. But this usually works out. This is a good horse. Stuns me through block. Okay. And now we want to go to Bear. It's been a while since I had this horse. And we're gonna put it away again. I just need to find a tier 6 male. I think I only have a tier 4 or tier 6 female. Hopefully doing all of this is fast. I mean, I should just open a guide. So, here we need... Hope I can buy an old tanning knife here.
You need patience, right?
Not so sure you can, but we should just have to go over to
The
there.
Bear Hunters are gathering again.
Old tanning knife.
Looks like you just brought us.
Hello there, mate. Are you also taking part in the Bear Hunter-thon? Welcome to Hunter's Heaven. Bear!
Okay, so I think there is elk here or something. Yep. There it is. Butcher, the elk. Right. There's the next one. What if we tan it? And then what if we suck its fluids? Then we need to find a bear. I'm not so sure this is where they are. Should be though. This seems like a hunting area. What does it want me to do with the bear? Just hunt it with a matchlock. Okay. BDO Codex. Giant brown bear. Showing that they only spawn on 2 islands. Which is probably not correct. There. They exist very few places though. Up around Olvia, Florin. And like over by the ash forest almost. It's showing over here. Like here. I'm not sure you can get in there via here though. Can you? Yeah, you can. Alright. Let's head over to the Trant Forest though first. Right? Hunt freshwater crocodile. I don't think we have any here. We need to find a glistening stump anyway. BDO, glistening stump. The glistening stump is there. Otherwise, like maybe we just haven't been in the Trent Forest. Like I usually go to Trent to chop trees, but I guess I kind of just walk like over here maybe. Or maybe it's something specific that we need to find. BDO chop trees, Trent Forest log. Kill 20 Trent trees. Okay, sure, I guess. Is there a glistening stump? Maybe? Or maybe not? Oh, is this guy not a boss? Or an enemy? He's just a big three. Okay. This one. Right. BDO, freshwater crocodile. They're around here. But first we gotta go. Gotta go over there into the ash forest and try to not get killed. Or we don't, and instead we go up here, and then we go and kill the bears around Olvia instead. Probably saves more time overall because it's in the right direction for the other stuff. And we need to go to Calcion and talk to Arden as well. Okay, so here we need to find a crocodile. I don't even know what to look for. There, see him. Maybe, yeah. Maybe. And Butcher. Come on. Come on. It doesn't work. Doesn't work, you piece of shit game, you're so fucking ass. I keep saying it, this is what they need to work on. The game is just as dog shit as it was when it came out. Fix your game. Basic functions don't work 9 years later. That's the real issue. Or should I still have my matchlock equipped, or like, what the fuck is the deal? It doesn't work. Is my butchering tool broken? Oh, do you need to climb up on it? Okay. Genius. Fantastic. Alright, that's the crocodile. Now we go to Calpheon. Let's go to Bartholomew, maybe. He's called Harden. Harden. Trade manager Harden. Alright, let's go. Okay, it's just one of the trade things. I think it's time to end the stream though. I'm tired and it's late. I have not been getting to bed in time. Probably gonna not do that tonight either. Tomorrow, I don't think my parents are coming by, so we'll just do more programming tomorrow. As usual. And then more BDO. Hit that follow button, click that subscribe button, click that like button. I'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging. Have a good night. Bye-bye.